Welcome back, football fans, to the second episode of From the Hip, the podcast where we tackle the hottest topics in the world of football with unfiltered opinions and sharp analysis. I'm your host, Anthony Rodriguez. And with me, as always, is my co host, Kory Thompson.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be back here. You know what? Let's just dive into it, man. It was a crazy week in football.
Say less. Tell me about it. I know. I was watching, like I said on Saturday, I told you that Dolphins game was going to be insane, the must watch game. And I think I was
But
right on
was it
that.
really a must-watch game? I mean, is a blowout really a must-watch situation? I mean, it gets.
Did you expect it to be a blowout?
I knew,
Did you expect a little bit of resistance from the Broncos?
I knew the Broncos' defense wasn't that great. I expected maybe the offense would have clicked a little bit more for the Broncos, seeing that the Dolphins have given up some points, like with that Chargers offense, but that Chargers offense is a lot more explosive than the Broncos offense. But I knew that Miami could put up a lot of points with the team that they have. That offense is built with speed, precision, and skill. Still,
I'll tell you what, I'll go a step further. I learned so much doing after saying that the Dolphins game was going to be what it was. And after watching the game, I went back and I started to look more into the game. There's so much more stuff involved in this game. And if I'd have known this, I would have said this Saturday. I found this out afterwards. Did you know that the coach of the Dolphins, did you know he used to be a ball boy with the Broncos?
yes. And I saw he did an interview with, he was on the Pivot. Sorry, not an interview. He was on an episode of the Pivot, and he was saying, like, this is something that he's always spoken into existence, that he always knew he was going to be a head coach, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So here's the thing. When he was the offensive coordinator with the 49ers, he had an opportunity to be the head coach of the Broncos, and they didn't even give him an interview.
Oh, wow.
So he was highly upset. So, uh, whether he would admit this or not, I'm not buying the fact that some of this wasn't personal.
Oh yeah,
I'm not going to
it's
believe that.
it's always
Okay.
personal. There,
Yeah. It's like me. I grew up in New York City. So if I had the opportunity to play for the Knicks, okay, because Knicks were my favorite team growing up. Okay. Even though we're talking football here, I'm letting you know as a kid, I was a huge basketball fan. So if I had the opportunity to play or coach for the Knicks, that would have been a dream come true. So here's a young man who was a ball boy with the Broncos, had an opportunity, and he was definitely a good choice because look what he's doing with the Dolphins right now. So, and they wouldn't even give him an interview, and that was his dream job. There's a little anger in there, there's a little heat.
well, two things.
So I'm thinking this was a little
Two
personal.
things to that. It is personal because as a man, we have a thing called an ego, and we all have an ego complex as a man. So, regardless of what you say, there's some hint of this being personal for this man. Second, but you did say something else. Look at what he's doing with this Dolphins team, this offense. It, he's got talent. So you can't.
This is true.
It's not like it's not like he built this team, you know. So it was handed to him because of situations prior, like what 2 seasons ago. So I don't know if he can take all the
So are
credit.
you trying to say that he's lucky?
I want to say he's a Steve Kerr. He's definitely a Steve Kerr at the moment. That's how I would put it.
Hmm.
Where,
Okay. I mean, I will grant you because I've always said, like I said, I was a basketball fan too. So when we talk about a Steve Kerr, the reason, for those who don't understand that reference, Steve Kerr came in and coached the Warriors to a championship, but he didn't necessarily build the team. The team was kind of built by Mark Jackson. So Mark Jackson steps away, and all of a sudden they win. Same thing happened with the Yankees with Joe Torre. That team was built by Buck Showalter, and then you bring in a guy like Joe Torre, and he wins all those championships. Who really built the team? So that's what he means by that statement. And I get with it. I get it. But um something has to be given to a Steve Kerr. Something has to be given to a Joe Torre. Just because someone gives you um just because someone hands you a computer that is totally specced out doesn't mean you can hack into the CIA.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree. I agree. He has to. He had to add his own touch, his own spin, his own views to that team to get it to click. You could have a team full of talent, and if they can't play together, you're not going to win. So
Indeed.
he
And I think a lot of these plays that they're running, okay, those are his plays. Those are his plays. That little shuttle pass that he threw to the running back that he ran right up the
mhm,
line. That was awesome. Okay. All those little plays that he's doing, they're working. Okay. Yes, he's blessed. He has Tyreek Hill on his team. Tyreek Hill was on KC and didn't do what he's doing right now when he was with KC. Don't get me wrong, he was great with KC, but he wasn't doing what he's doing right now. It seems like this guy can't be stopped.
yeah.
He can't be stopped. Waddle is a better player now than he ever was. Okay. I am not convinced on Tua, but Tua looks like an MVP.
I mean, when you can't overthrow somebody or two people, yeah. Like I said, I could throw 60 yards with them guys and look like a stud. I'm still not
I
sold on
got you.
Tua.
But I'm still going to give some of the credit to Mike McDaniel. He deserves it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. He deserves
he
some of it.
does.
He has a lot to do with what they're doing
He
right now.
does.
Okay. But the real story of the game, you know what? We're talking about Hill. We're talking about McDaniel. We want to talk about Waddle. Um, what about your boy? What's his name? The running back that came out of nowhere.
Oh,
Devon,
I
was it like A
I
Chain?
don't know how to pronounce
Because
it.
I was pronouncing it all
Yeah, I
wrong.
don't know how to pronounce that last name, but what a spectacular performance. You know,
Holy
yeah,
smokes. Dude ran for over 200
yeah,
yards.
200 yards. He had what, like two, three TDs or something like that. Uh,
On top of that, he's going to be the waiver wire monster this week. Okay. Tomorrow's Wednesday morning. Everybody's going to wake up. When they get up in the morning, they're going to grab their phones and check their email to see on their fantasy waiver wire whether they got their pick. Because I think every single person in the world went on there and tried to pick him up. Right? Because don't get me wrong, I still don't think he's going to be the back going forward. It's still going to be Monster. How do you pronounce
Raheem
that dude's
Mostert.
name?
Raheem Mostert still
Moster. Okay, it's still him. He's the primary
he
back. He's
he had
primary.
13
Okay,
touches.
and he had a
He
great
had
game too. So
82
let's not take anything
yards
away from him.
rushing with three TDs, and he even caught seven catches, 60 yards with another TD. So Raheem Mostert put
Yes,
up four touchdowns for him. You know.
yes,
Hmm.
monster, monster. So that's what I'm saying. He's not going to lose his
Oh
job.
no, 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 no.
But this team is so dynamic that I think you can guarantee that there's enough room on this offense, being what it is, that he's a must pick up off of that waiver wire.
Of course, yeah. If they turn this into now a two-headed monster with him and Mostert,
Oh God,
you can't
can you
stop because
imagine a team where you already have you have that 1-2 combination of the wide receivers, and you're going to bring that to the running backs too?
and a pretty
Oh my
good
God.
defense. That's pretty. Their defense is pretty solid, man. That defense is
I
aggressive.
did not think that the Broncos were that bad. I still don't think the Broncos are that bad. I think, any team that you have a Russell Wilson, that you have a Judy, I don't think they're a bad team. They're a bad offense, but they look
Yeah,
bad.
but
Does that mean that they're
no,
bad? Or does that
but
mean that Dolphins are that
No, no.
good.
The defense only sacked Wilson once throughout the whole game, one time, but they hit him 12 times. Now,
Yeah, he was hurried the whole game.
yeah, you can't. If he can't set his feet and throw, he's not. That's not a good pass. That's you're throwing. You're not technically throwing a mallard up, but it's not going to be as accurate. It's not going to have the zip to get to the receiver at that right moment in time. So when he's hurried the whole entire game, you can't get anywhere. You
Hmm.
can't really function. I mean, yes, he they put up 20 points. Yes, Russell Wilson looks a lot better than he did last season. The offense is moving a little bit better under Sean Payton, but they're still missing a run game. And I think if they get a run game, they can get things going in the right direction.
Gotcha. Well, let's see what happens going forward. But I think the Dolphins have definitely let us know that they are a team to be reckoned with this year, and the Broncos have definitely let us know that they're not. Okay, let's move to this next game: Baltimore,
Oh God,
Indianapolis.
we really doing this?
Okay, and I know you were gonna say, "Oh God," because I know how big of a fan you are. But here's the deal. Um, when I watched the game, here's my thought: Lamar had to carry the entire team. Okay, nobody else stood out. Not even Flowers with his 8 receptions. Those were really quiet 8 receptions.
Mhm.
But Lamar did everything by himself.
Yeah, he rushed for over 100 yards. He had two rushing TDs. I mean, he threw for 202. He only dropped back 31 times. He had 22 completions. He was sacked 4 times.
Yeah, he had all
Yeah,
of that and a partridge and
yeah,
a pear
yeah,
tree. The guy did
yeah.
everything. uh, You know, um, but when I watched the game, Zach Moss had a great
He
game.
did.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens if Taylor ever gets back, because Moss is definitely shown to be a capable back, but is he going to replace
Pittman had a
Taylor?
good game
I
too. I
don't know.
mean, he had 9 catches with 77 yards, and he's been a good
Hmm.
fantasy pickup for the first two games. I think he had like 20 points. He did all right this weekend. Yeah, I think he dropped like 14, 15 maybe. But the Zach Moss
Yeah,
situation, he did carry the ball 30 times, but it's very intriguing because you got a guy like Jonathan Taylor. He was he didn't have a good season last season. He was hurt last season as well. Still hurt now. And there's been talks about trade and so forth. So what do you do when you have a guy like Zach Moss who's trying to step up to the plate or is stepping up to the plate, and you have a Jonathan Taylor sitting there in the back like, "Hey, I'm still here. I'm waiting." What do you do? Do you trade him? 'Cause
you trade him to the Jets. Trade him to the Jets. Get rid of
trade
him.
him to the Jets.
Get rid of
Yo,
him.
so now the Jets need three running backs.
Jets will give you everything they got. They'll give you the next 5 first-round draft picks, and they'll pay for all your children's college educations. They'll do whatever you
Well, we
want to
just
do.
spoke about that Denver
Okay.
team. They could use him. They could definitely use him
No, Denver
if
doesn't want him.
if you
Denver wouldn't
run.
take him, but the Jets they'll overpay
Oh
for him.
man, the Bears could use him. The Jets. Look, you got me saying the Jets. The Bears could use him. Denver could use him. Who else is out there that could use a good running game? Even the Cardinals, I feel, could use a pretty good running game. And I mean, it's been a very lackluster season in the run game. There's another game I want to mention when we get out of this one that was
Hold on,
shocking.
wait, but I don't want you to miss the biggest deal that happened
Oh,
with the
I know what
Baltimore.
it is. The no call DPI, which
Oh no, forget that. I don't even count the no call. You know why? Because they shouldn't even have been there.
that's true.
Baltimore should have been up by 30 points by the time that happened, so that shouldn't have mattered. So I don't count that as anything to do with them. What bothered me about that game, and the biggest problem from that game for me, is that Gus Edwards suffered a concussion. So going forward with that, this is going to affect next week for
Hmm.
him. He will not play, okay, because he's still going to be suffering from the concussion. So he's going to miss next week. All right. So that means they're going to have to play with Gordon and Drake. They're going to have to figure out what they're going to do. To me, that's the bigger deal. All right. For next week for them. Because Baltimore is a very good team, but they lost that game and they needed that game.
That's right. We did need that game, and I agree with you. I'm not sold on Kenyon Drake. To be honest, I've never been a fan of him since he's entered the NFL. He's been with multiple teams. I watched him play last year when they came down to Tampa Bay, and he was horrible. Gus was the one that kept us in the game, that got us the win against Tampa. He was the one that was getting us 3, 4 yards every play at least. Kenyon Drake was not the one, or is not the one, in my opinion. I would rather lean harder on Melvin Gordon, even though he's new to the offense, than Kenyon Drake, but
Hmm.
I would trust him over Kenyon Drake, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I agree. But I mean, they got to figure something out because next week they play the Browns.
Ooh, and that Browns defense
Okay.
has been pretty nice. That's another talk
Yeah.
too.
That Browns defense, they got Garrett, and Garrett's a monster.
Well, since now you want to talk about the Browns, let's bring up the Browns again because that was the next game I wanted to talk about actually. So
All
they
right.
go against the Titans. They're playing in Cleveland. Titans 3, Browns 27. And I mean, remember, this is with no Nick Chubb, right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's just go with this right here. Miles Garrett, the defense had 5 total sacks. Miles Garrett had 3.5 of them. Because you just brought him up. 3.5 sacks from Miles Garrett. That defense has been playing very, very good football. And I mean, the Browns, about what, maybe 5 years ago, right before Baker, they were the laughing stock of the league or something like that. Well, more than that. Before Odell got over there, they were like a laughing stock of the
Mm-hmm.
league, and now they've made a complete turnaround. They are. I don't think they can make the playoffs, but I don't think they're a threat. They're more of a threat to ruin someone's playoff chances right now. I still think they need a little bit of work on the offensive side of the ball, but that defense is good to go. But here was the real shocking thing for me. Derrick Henry, 11 touches, 20 yards with a TD.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the other thing is you have DeAndre Hopkins, 3 catches, 48 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think that team is lost on offense, and I don't understand why. They have some key players there.
mhm.
I don't know if it's a coaching problem. It could be an offensive coaching situation, but they have some key players. I know they lost Chubb. I'm aware of that. But Ford definitely stepped
Mhm.
in, and he had a great game stepping in. So he's shown he's a capable back. They just picked up um my boy.
Oh, oh man, tip of my tongue. Such a good dynamic
Yep, you got me
running
too.
back. Come on, Hunt. Yeah.
Hunt, thank you. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. They picked up Kareem Hunt, which because he was there last year, so he knows the
Mm-hmm.
system. All right. I think he's great to have on your team, but I don't see him actually. I don't see anything wrong with Ford. So I don't think Ford's ready to give it up. I think Ford's going to give him a hard time with him taking the position. All right. But I mean, by the way, let's talk about this real
Mm-hmm.
brief. Saturday I said we could say goodbye to Chubb. Won't be coming back.
Right.
Great news. Wonderful news that it looks like, I mean, he's still gone for the season, but it looks like he did not have the career ending incredible injury that we all thought he had.
Yeah, that was presumed.
So it
Yeah.
looks like, yeah, it's presumed. I know he has to go under the knife. Once they open him up, they'll look inside of it, see how bad it is. But now they've downgraded it where now it's an MCL, okay? Possible strain to the ACL. But we thought that he ripped up everything in there, man. We thought he was done. So it looks like more likely that he'll miss 9 months, and with if everything goes well, he should be able to come back by opening day next season.
Mm,
And you know what? God bless if he
yeah.
can. I still don't think he's going to start. I think if he's able to come back, I think the Browns will offload him. But that's just we're not going to go there.
Could help out because I think Nick Chubb has shown that he's durable to a degree,
Hmm.
but how long does that last for? You need to split the workload. They need to
Yeah.
take a little bit off of him,
Either way,
and
especially if Ford actually carries them for the rest of the season. If Ford
mhm,
carries them for the rest of the season and makes himself as a capable back, Chubb coming back with that injury, that pushes him in the back burner.
yeah,
You know. Now, don't
for
get me wrong.
sure.
If Ford and Hunt are not able to carry the Browns, and they struggle and they're done for the season as far as their playoff hopes, then they're going to welcome Chubb with open arms as the savior. So let's see how that works out.
Yeah.
Detroit. Okay, watch
Woohoo!
Detroit. Here's what I've learned from that game. Okay, Robinson is a stud, but he's a stud who's on a terrible team. Okay, they've got probably the worst quarterback in the NFL.
I think that might be Ryan Tannehill, but that's up for debate.
That is up for debate because I don't think anybody is worse than Ripper, Ryder,
Desmond Reader,
Rooter,
right? Yeah.
Rooter,
Ritter or
whatever you
something
want to
like
call him.
that.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
Who?
Worse, yeah. Who? He's horrible. Um, but with that being said, okay, because we know the Falcons are not good, and that's okay.
Mm,
How good are the Lions? Because I have not been able to get a real good gauge on them. They've played some quality games, but
well, I mean,
are they a good team? Are they for real? But they have a horribly tough road, especially at the end of the season. I looked at their schedule going forward.
mhm.
So if they are for real, it's going to be a really tough situation to see if they're a real team. Because St. Brown is awesome. We know this. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but this team is like, can they really last? They got a really tough schedule, man. So I
Well,
don't see them as a real playoff team, to be honest with you.
well, it definitely wasn't the Bijan show this
No.
week.
But I mean, he
Um,
had a good game though.
I don't think so. Not to the standards we need to see. Golf did all right. Gibbs had 80 yards. The defense had 7 sacks. That's a young, hungry defense that they do have. I think that's where they need a little bit of help. But
Hmm.
to what you were saying, I mean, they played the Chiefs week 1. They won. They played the Seahawks week 2, lost by a touchdown in the OT, and they put up 31 points. They lost 37 to 31. I mean, so the Seahawks are a good team. The Seahawks are a playoff bound team.
Yeah.
Geno Smith run last season turned his whole career around.
Oh,
So there's
absolutely.
a whole new outlook on Geno Smith. And then this week they went against the Falcons, who were a bad team, who they were supposed to win and who they were supposed to beat, and they went out and they beat them. They beat them what 20-6 or something like that.
Yeah. It was a
Yeah,
handle. I mean, they beat them. They
they
did what they were
manhandled them.
supposed to do. They did what they were supposed to
Right.
do. Yeah.
They
So that's
didn't
why
put
I'm
up as
like
much
not sure.
points.
I'm not sure who they are because they did what they were supposed to do. They didn't just squeak by them. They beat them. They beat them. They didn't give them a Dolphins beating, but they beat them. So there's nothing
Well,
wrong with what they've done. That's why I don't know what to make of them yet. Now, I guess the actual jury is going to still be out on them. So we'll just have to wait to see what happens. But like I said, they have a
well,
very tough road ahead of them, though.
we still have to look at it like this. They're in the NFC North. The Bears, they're nothing right
Yeah.
now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a total rebuild.
Yeah.
The Packers, mm, I'm not sold on the Packers. I think they're not winning the division. They don't have Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is up and down. That's a wash. So that
Okay.
only leaves other two teams: the Lions and the Vikings. Vikings are 0-3 right now,
Mm-hmm. Liking the Vikings are definitely becoming the Likings instead of the Vikings.
but they're a good team. The Vikings have faced other good teams this season so far. They're
Well, they
putting
have
up points.
weapons.
Their defense is bleeding. Right. Well, what what I'm waiting to see is that game. The Lions and the Vikings play each other. Whenever they play, I don't know what week they're going to play. I haven't looked that far ahead in the schedule, but that's a game that I think is going to set the tone for the NFC North
Hmm.
to let us know what team is going to come out and be the division champs and go into the playoffs. And the Vikings are in trouble right now,
Oh yeah.
you know. And I mean, it was that well, moving into that game with the Vikings and the Chargers, it was a win. It was a must win game for both teams.
Hmm.
So, granted, the Chargers came out on top. I thought it was going to be the Vikings
Me too. I
because
did think the Vikings were going to win that one. I thought that was their win. The Chargers, I guess they wanted it more. But you know what? Forget about who won that game because the Vikings don't look good right now. Even though their offense, they have Kirk Cousins, they have Jeffries, they still have weapons. But to me, the story of that game is the loss of Mike Williams. You know,
hmm
that's huge. Before he went down, he had 121 yards and a TD.
hmm
Okay, the guy was he's a big deal. Okay, now I know we have Keenan Allen on that team as well, but it's like you look at a good pair of wide receivers, right? So like another team like Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Yeah, they're
hmm
both fantastic. But I
Chase and
think
T Higgins. Yeah,
yeah, but I think that Tyreek Hill does benefit by having a guy as good as Waddle on the other side of the field because you can't cheat and just double him or triple him every single play because Waddle will eat you up alive out there.
correct.
And I think it's the same thing with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, fantastic. He's having a great year. He's had great years in the past. I think he's going to still have a good year. But without Mike Williams, how good of a year? Because now you can cheat a little bit. Now you
Well,
can push a safety over his way.
last season, Keenan Allen went down early. I think he went down like week two, week three, something like that, leaving Mike Williams as the number one option. Mike Williams still had a good season. He really put up pretty good numbers last year for being the only option on offense as far as a wide receiver. So I think Keenan Allen will be fine. But the other story of this game on the flip side was Keenan Allen set a record for the Chargers as far as in receiving with 18 receptions, 215 in yards, no TD, but he also did throw a 49-yard pass for a touchdown. So
Mm-hmm.
he set a record for the Chargers. Also, that was interesting to me. Herbert, 40 for 47 with 405 yards. TD. He missed seven passes.
I know.
Seven.
And you traded him away in fantasy.
Yeah, but Kirk Cousins outdid him in fantasy
But you
this
traded him
week.
away in fantasy for Mixon.
And Deshaun Watson.
Okay. Deshaun Watson was a throwaway. We're not going to go there. But that leads me, okay, that leads me into the Rams game from last night. Okay.
Ooh-wee.
Actually, let me take it back. Before we go into the Rams game, I do want to talk about the Green Bay because we skipped over Green
Yeah,
Bay, and I want to talk about Green
yeah.
Bay for a second.
What a comeback.
Yeah, great comeback, but you know what? No. It was only 18 points. So we're not going to speak about it as if it was something major. Okay. The guy did his job. It was at the end of the game. So that's why we call it a comeback because it was right at the end of the game. But he should have been doing that from the beginning. So that's why I'm not going to fall in love with love. You know,
I
we
like
should
the
title
pun. I
that as a
like the
book.
pun.
Don't fall in love
Yeah,
with love.
with love.
Okay. But,
Mm,
you know, but there's another great story coming out of that, right? So I watch and I look at the game and I'm thinking, okay, these are two in the middle of the road teams, New Orleans and Green Bay. And Green Bay is the one I think has a higher chance of actually coming out and going into the playoffs. Even with Love, I think they got an interesting team. Got a good defense. They got a really good defense.
they
Love
do.
has some stuff to prove, but I think he has talent. I think he has talent. He's showing that Green Bay did the right thing by moving on from Rodgers and seeing what they could do with some young talent. But so he still have some stuff to prove. bigger story on that game for me always leads to the injuries. Okay, Carr
Mhm.
is hurt, and Carr's going to miss multiple games. Okay, he was dropped on his shoulder, hurt his shoulder. Thankfully, it's not too bad. It's like a sprain in his AC joint of his shoulder. He's going to miss several games. Winston came in. He finished the game, looked good in the game as well. So now we have a problem because Carr's made of glass. Carr's been made of glass his entire career. Everywhere he's played, he's gotten hurt over everything. He had a team that should have won with the Raiders, and even
That
though
was
they
what,
were such a
2, 3
dynamic
years
offense, he
ago.
always got hurt.
Yeah, that was like 2, 3 years ago where I really think they could have won. They could have won the Super Bowl that
Yeah,
year,
I
but
agree.
Derek Carr went down because everything was clicking. That's when they
Hmm.
had Henry Ruggs, who we all know what happened to him, Darren Waller, and Josh Jacobs, who was just a machine at that point. That team was built to win. Yes, Derek Carr went down, and I think if I'm not mistaken, he hurt the same shoulder. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I don't know if it was. I don't remember if it was a shoulder or not, but I think it's the same thing as that year that he went out during the playoffs. But I will have to agree that that is the most important and
Now,
most valuable
what I
thing
would
this
like to
week
see what
out of that
happens with this
game.
team is if Carr's going to continue to get hurt. I'd love to see them move on. I'd love to see them give Jameis Winston a chance. I don't think Jameis is done.
Well, they just got Carr.
I know, but Carr is like already doing what he does. He's already doing what he does.
I
You
mean,
know.
they were 1-1 with him. You got to give the guy a chance, and you got to give him a chance with having Alvin Kamara back. Chris Olave looks great. They got
Oh, he
Michael
looks awesome.
Thomas. He's not Michael Thomas from Drew Brees era, but he's still a decent Michael Thomas, a good compliment to Chris. But I want to see what he could do with Alvin Kamara before we write him off.
Okay, I'm willing to grant you that, but just know that he's going to have a very short leash in my book as far as guys I'm willing like I wouldn't have him on my fantasy team. Let's just put it that way. I would not put him on my team for anything.
I agree with that. I wouldn't put him on my team either, but it's just I still want to see what he can do.
Okay. But somebody I would like to have on my fantasy team that I don't is Burrow. Okay. That Rams game. Let's get back to that Rams game now.
Yeah,
Last night's game. I tell you what, he had the calf injury. It's been messing with him. I've been very skeptical on him. I've been kind of a Joe Burrow hater for the past week or so, thinking, oh man, I don't know about this guy. He hasn't looked that good, blah, blah, blah. He looked great last night. He looked wonderful. Jamar Chase blew up. Finally
Jamar
looked
Chase
like the
finally had a
Jamar
game.
Chase that everybody was talking about, that why
Hmm.
you draft him in the first round of your fantasy leagues. 121 yards. Guy was all over the place. He looked fantastic. Okay. And Burrow looked
Yeah, I know he
fantastic.
didn't throw to T Higgins,
And
so a
Higgins,
little
I know he
upset.
didn't throw a lot to Higgins, but it still was an option, and he still threw to him. It did open up the running game, so Mixon put some points up. It scared me a little bit because you had
Yeah,
him on your team, but for the record, I
yeah,
beat you this week.
yeah, barely, barely. Should have played Swift.
you know, but the Rams, they don't look so good. Okay, they they just don't. I'm looking at the Rams. I'm thinking the lone standout is the wide receiver. Okay.
Puka not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Just
Yeah, I
Puka
know.
not Nachu Nacha.
Whatever happened to guys named
Napu.
Joe Smith? But he looks wonderful. He looks great. Where did he play? Wasn't he from BYU?
Let's see here. He is, yeah, BYU,
Yeah. Okay. Looks
small
great.
school.
He's coming out of nowhere. I don't think anybody really thought he was going to be that good, and he looks great. Okay. I'm happy because he's on my fantasy team, by the way.
Yeah, I know, I know. I mean, they they have no Cooper Cup. They they sold out to win that Super Bowl. I get it. You went and got Stafford. You made sure you had pieces. You had Deshaun Jackson at the start of the season. Got rid of him, and then you brought in Odell, who was just a taller Deshaun Jackson, in my opinion. And low key, he was winning Super Bowl MVP if he didn't get hurt. Was Odell.
Yep,
Cooper Cup had
absolutely.
that great season, but you literally you sold out. You had Von Miller too. You just sold out to win a Super Bowl.
Hmm.
I get
And
it.
you know what? I
You got to
mean,
do it at
they'll
times.
probably do it again if they could replay it. If they can go back in time, they would do it again. They wanted the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
They
and
got
I
it.
don't blame them. I don't blame them. Because they had that was Aaron Donald who was coming into the last year of his contract. So they wanted to do something to, I would assume, to try to keep Aaron Donald playing because Aaron Donald has been contemplating retirement at like 30 years old or something like that. The guy's phenomenal. That clip with Geno Smith is to me the funniest thing, where Aaron Donald comes around the double team and you hear Geno say, "Oh God, oh my God," and just throw it away. Has to be the funniest thing in the world because he sees Aaron Donald coming in at full speed. He's a monster. The guy's won multiple defensive MVPs at a D end. He benches like 500 pounds. The dude's a beast. If
Indeed.
if
Indeed.
if he was a if we could have him on fantasy, I'd pick him up every year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so that leads me to the final game, the Philadelphia Tampa Bay Bucks.
I
Okay.
told you, sit Baker.
Yes. Okay, Sid Baker. And you know what? I think we all knew and we all agreed with you. Baker, you know what the funny thing about Baker is that he is a true football guy. Goes
Yeah.
out there and he leaves his heart on the field. Okay. But
Mhm.
he did not have enough to go against the Eagles. The Eagles, to me, and you know what? You could watch the game and you sit there and go, "Ah, but it was a lot closer than it should have been." Blah blah blah. Let me tell you something. The Eagles play old school football. They run the ball, smash it down your mouth, play stupid defense. Okay, and they got a great team. Hurts had a great game. I know he threw the one interception, but he had a great game. Um,
He threw two
Very
picks.
solid. Okay, you're right. He did throw two picks, but he had a
Mhm.
solid game. Had the one touchdown, led the team down there. The running game was just, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
Like I
that
said, I should have
defense is
played Swift.
just is old school defense. That reminds me of '90s defense.
I
You
want
know,
to say this about Baker. Just like you were mentioning, like he's a football guy. You ever see, this is not a knock on Baker. I don't want anyone to take this in the wrong way. It's just for some kind of context for the heart. I want you to look at this as heart. You ever seen the movie The Replacements
oh yeah,
with Keanu Reeves?
hmm,
That's who Baker reminds me of.
yeah,
you know, a quarterback that he's kind of been bounced around and everybody looked at him like, I don't think he's a guy. I don't think he's a guy. I think Baker's a good quarterback. I
I do
really do.
agree.
He can manage the game well. The guy just needs players around him and a little bit of protection.
Well,
That's
you know
it. And
what?
I
He
think he
does
could be
have
really
players. He
good.
has Evans. He has Godwin. So I mean, he has two good wide receivers. Okay,
And a pretty decent old line.
and he has a pretty decent O line. Okay, I
And
don't. He doesn't have a running game really right now.
mm,
Um, but I just think that they were overmatched. I just think they
for
were
sure.
overmatched. They ran into a stupid team.
They ran into a
Okay,
buzzsaw.
yeah, they ran
The,
into a team that they're just not ready for, because up until this point they were undefeated, and I think they still have a great season going forward. I don't think that they would be my odds-on favorite to go deep into the playoffs and win. At
well,
least not yet. They'd have to show me a hell of a lot more. But I
I
would
think they're the
definitely,
front runners to win the NFC South.
yeah, I agree with that. But I think they're
Mhm.
going to be one of those teams that go there and get knocked right out. Okay, but what I'm saying is, the Eagles. I look at the Eagles and I'm like, it's Super Bowl or bust for me. Same with the 49ers. Same with
I would
the
agree.
same with
Kansas City
the
Chiefs.
the Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think all four of those teams. I think any of like if you had a time machine and could go forward in time to the end of the season, and you found out that any of those teams won the Super Bowl, you would not be shocked.
Oh, and don't forget the Bills and the Ravens.
No, easy on the Ravens, but the Bills, no. Okay, the Bills to me, I think they're a tough win, but they're on your way. They're on the road. They're one of the stepping stones on your road to victory. The Bills are not, to me, they're not there. They're just not there. Okay. Not the
Before
same as when I look at the Dolphins this year, or when I look at KC, or when I look at the 49ers, or when I look at the Eagles. The Bills remind me of the Cowboys.
I'll come back to the Bills, but as far as the game, I mean, Jalen Hurts, 23 completions, 277, one touchdown, two INTs. Said he was playing sick with flu-like symptoms, trying to have that Michael Jordan flu game.
No, he missed it.
Um, yeah. Even Jason Kelsey said he was under the weather. So there's a couple other players. So maybe if they were all healthy, maybe we would have saw a higher scoring game.
Maybe if they all
Not
hadn't gone out last night and had something to drink, because that's probably what
well. I
more
mean,
likely happened. You're not going to tell me the whole team got sick. More likely they all went out to go drinking.
Swift, 16 carries, 130 yards. AJ Brown finally had his game
Woo!
for the
Did he?
season.
Did he?
Devonta Smith has been carrying the workload.
Yes, he has.
I I don't think Devontae Smith is a true number one, only due to his size. And if he gets hit good or whatever the case is, he does get injured. But I
You
love
think running back
Devontae
three?
Smith. What? Running back
You think running
three?
back three? Like maybe
Oh my goodness.
like if you had a better option on your team, would you put him on your flex?
Oh yeah, for sure. Devonta Smith, for sure. He's a flex player. He's put up points in the first two games. But AJ
Hmm.
Brown, 9 catches, 131 yards, no touchdown. But he actually arrived on the scene this week,
Yeah, he
which
woke up. He
Uh,
woke up.
yeah, he woke up, or maybe he wasn't getting double covered as much like normal. I mean, they did hit Baker 5 times. They only had 2 sacks, but they're going to keep you boxed up. They're going to put pressure on you, this Eagles defense, and I mean, they're just so good. Their ends, their linebackers, their corners, their safe, they're just so good. And the thing about this team that I really like is it looks like nobody plays with an ego, but they all play with a chip on their shoulder.
Agreed. Agreed. But that's because they're from Philly.
Oh man,
Have you ever been
I
there?
I
Have you
didn't
ever been
say
there?
that. I
That's a
didn't say
tough
that.
city,
He
buddy. That's
said
a
it.
tough city. I've been to Philadelphia, man. I'm from New York, and even I was like, man, this is Philly. That
I
is not for the
I didn't
lighthearted,
say
buddy.
that. People, I didn't say that. He said it.
I said it, man. That is not for the lighthearted. That is a tough city. I thought the traffic in New York was bad. I got stuck at barely getting into Philly. I was like, what the hell is going on? That is a tough city. You know what? My hat goes off to anybody who lives in Philadelphia because you
It's the
people are
city of
tough.
brotherly love, man. The city
Yeah,
of
there's no
brotherly
love there. I'm
love.
telling you right now, there's no love. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. That is one tough city. Okay.
Oh
With
man,
that, um, I just want to put some information out there. This is our second episode. This is the Tuesday show. We will be doing the recap on this show. That's what we did today. Thursday, we will come back on Thursday. Thursdays will be the forecast. That's what we're going to be calling that episode, the forecast. That is going to let you know who you should be looking into, who you should be looking to bet on, which fantasy players you should start or sit. We're going to be talking about that on Thursdays. Justin should be back on that day. He was out today, but hopefully we can have him back. And of course, on Saturday, we will have the video show. That's more of all of us getting together, talking about everything going on, recapping, and giving you our final picks. Okay. We decided to put it on Thursday so we can actually put in that Thursday game. So that's what's coming forward. Is there anything that you'd like to say, Kory?
I just want to thank everybody. Anybody who's out there listen to us for the first time, thanks for your support. We hope to continue to give you some great content, some great insight. Better picks next, better picks next week.
Especially on your
Uh,
end.
Hey, hey, man.
Hey
Those,
man, I was spot
those,
on, buddy.
look, one of us has to be the exciting one. Y'all can't be the obvious picks. I gotta have some excitement on the show. But I mean, this is all coming from the heart and shooting from the hip, like
This is
our
what we do.
show is
That's why
called.
we call it
This is
that.
what we do. Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. I'd like for you all to follow us and share whatever videos that you can to help people actually see this. Until next time, let's keep it football and keep it from the hip.